Hi, I'm Jimmy Palmiotti, author of books like Harley Quinn and Jonah Hex, Marvel Knights, God knows what else with paper films, everything. Anyway, listen, if you're gonna geek out, you gotta geek hard.
Welcome back to the program, Jimmy Palmiotti. Jimmy, how you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. How about yourself, Andrew?
Pretty good, pretty good. So of course, you've just launched the Kickstarter campaign from Triggergirl 6 Justice. It's your 22nd Kickstarter campaign. And of course, you're taking a character that you haven't done anything with for about 10 years now. You
Yeah.
did the creator-owned heroes, which then you then took the stories from that and released as a one-shot back in 2013. And now you come back to the character. What was the decision to return to Triggergirl 6?
So I have a lot of these characters that I've worked on and created and co-created with Justin and Phil Noto and all these guys. And, there's only so much time in a day. And plus, doing Kickstarters takes a lot of work. So I've always wanted to do some more with the character, but the idea or the timing just didn't stick. And I wasn't able to get Phil Noto, and Phil's working for Marvel now, and yada, yada, yada. So I did have an idea, and I talked to Juan Santa Cruz, who is my guy. I use him on a lot of things like Painkiller Jane, and we did the Resistance together. And I talked to him, and I asked him if he'd be up for. I think the book total is around 60 something pages because it's in two comics when you get back to Kickstarter. But I talked to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that." And so I had to have the story come to me. It wasn't like, "Hey, I need to come up with something for my next Kickstarter." It's actually the opposite with me because I have stuff that I'm working on all the time, and especially because I've kind of turned my back a little bit on the big two. It's a mutual thing because COVID and all that kind of stuff, and it just in the end it doesn't make sense. Like they're financial, the way you work for them, it just doesn't make sense for a guy like me to work that hard to not benefit more. And
Right.
we definitely made them a little money with Harley over the years. And um, so anyway, I started doing the Kickstarters. And with these books, it's like if I have an idea for character, a new character, I do it. If I have an idea for an existing, like I've done over the years, Painkiller Jane a couple of times. And the Triggergirl one was something that I was like, I don't know if you noticed lately, there's a lot of environmental news in the news. And they like to keep us busy with politics because it keeps our brain out of the depressing things that are going on, like the planet getting hotter. Obviously, we can't avoid that right now, because I think when I go to Vegas at one point in the next 2 weeks, and it's 117 there, and I don't even know what that is. Like, what is 117 like? I figure that's like when you take your chicken out of the oven and it's like that, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I live down in Florida, and um, I'm watching people with boats and jet skis killing manatees and dolphins, and whales are striking back now. And, there's a lot of crazy stuff happening with animals. Like, there's whole like areas that are infected with infestations of different bugs that they never had, and it's because the whole world's out of balance. And that's been like weighing on my mind. I read so much; it's probably not healthy for me after a while, because you read so much that you can't do anything about,
Yeah.
um, except donate here and there, which I do. But anyway, and I'm a huge lover of animals: cats, dogs, birds. I like them all, probably better than people, you know, and at least most people. And so the Trigger Girl book is about a character that in the original series we did with Phil Noto and Justin Gray was a character that um, pretty much the environment was going to hell, and animals were becoming extinct insanely quick in this period of time. And there was a scientist that was working with communication with animals and was able to make a breakthrough with them where they could actually communicate and learn that certain species are actually a lot smarter than we thought they were. Once they can communicate, they actually have skills. Anyway, the original story was about the animals using DNA, animal DNA mixed with human DNA, creating a protector for them. And the name of the book is Triggergirl 6 because there were 5 before her that didn't work out too well.
Right.
And she's the one that works out. And this story takes place. I do a catch up in the Kickstarter, so anybody who's reading the book that never read the old ones, in 2 pages I catch you right up. Okay,
Right.
and then it's basically about her working for the animals, trying to protect the species, but also at the same time, because she was a test tube child, she has not developed a lot of her skills outside of being able to take people out and doing all these things. So it explores her relationship with the animals. It explores her relationship with other humans. We have a bad guy that's kind of trafficking near extinction type animals, and so there's a lot to unpack in the book. But it's an adult comic, so there's nudity, there's violence, there's everything, everything you want in a comic. And beautiful artwork. And then we put together the book. I've been working on it for like 7 months, and we finished the 2 books. And then I went out to a couple of artists that I love to see if they could do covers. So I went, besides my wife, Amanda always does covers. Okay,
Right, of course. That's a deal right there. Like, that's always going to happen. We know that. If it didn't happen, we'd be concerned. We would.
It's true, and her covers are usually the things that sell the most.
Of course.
Which is kind of great, because we never show her covers in the Kickstarter. They're always, and this is no different, because what she does is, and Amanda's kind of clever that way, she waits till all the art's in and everyone else is done with their covers, and then she decides, okay, I want to do nothing like these other guys.
Yeah. And
she does it. And same thing with this Kickstarter. She's like, she saw Adam Hughes' cover come in, which was amazing. Dave Johnson, Joe Lindsay did a couple, Ryan Sook did an amazing one, and she's like, okay, now I know what to do. Look at it, and it gives her the advantage, home court advantage. But we did, Adam is the busiest man on earth, but he still fit in time for this, and I love him. God bless him. Yeah. And my usual buddies, Joe Linsner and Dave Johnson, and I worked with Ryan Sook on Hawkman for a year, and so we had that connection. Yeah, so it got beautiful covers, and then Juan Santa Cruz drew the inside. It's beautiful, and it's also the first book I've ever colored. So I colored both books.
Yeah, that's the thing that really stuck out to me, is that, of course, like back in the day, you had a career as an inker, but you've been primarily writing for the past 20 plus years. That's been your job. What was the desire to decide, hey, I'm going to color this one?
During COVID, right before COVID, DC Comics ghosted me. Like, I literally got no work, no nothing. The end of the deal left, nothing. Nobody offered me anything, and I was like, okay, so and I've worked there 30 years, so it caught me off guard, right? That they can just decide that, okay, you're no longer somebody we give a crap about, and that's on them, because I always say it's always their loss, because I'm like,
of course,
I look at a lot of the new books and I'm like going, yeah, it wouldn't hurt to have some experienced writers here, but sales dictate that, right? You look at how the books are doing, you're like, okay, but anyway, so I looked at that as an opportunity to kind of try another skill, and I bought an iPad, and I started using Procreate program, which is made for idiots like me. And I watched during COVID, I watched like 100 videos on how to do it. And I had a natural, I was already an editor on books, so any colorist will tell you I'm a bit of a color editor, and so I said, all right, let me put my money where my mouth is, and let me do it. And then I would send my pages to guys like Paul Mounts or Alex Sinclair, and I'd say, what am I doing wrong? What's going on? And they were very generous with their time. And, and then I started picking it up, and the artists started going. I started coloring all of Amanda's covers in the past year. So that if you look close, it's a little Palmiotti right under her name.
Oh, okay.
So I've been coloring those, and I actually have a page rate at Marvel NDC for coloring. And then Pop Kill was the first interiors I've colored, and that was over 60 pages, and you learn real quick. like, oh my God, like this is so much damn work. And the colorist would tell me, well, there's shortcuts. You know, you could start with a color and then pull stuff out. And I'm like, I started learning some shortcuts, but honestly, a colorist can color a book in like a week, you know, 20 something pages. I could do 2 a day, tops.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it. I can't, and I'm a picky bastard. I kind of look at the details, and I'm time of day. Oh my God, there's long shadows because the sun is low, so the shadows are long. You know, I'm doing all this stuff, and that was the compliments I got from other colorists. Was, you know, you're looking at things like a photographer or a real artist. You're looking at the way light works and everything. And I said, yeah. I said, kind of exploring textures and stuff. But look, it's like if I'm going to be 62 in like next month, right? And there's a point where you're like, you got to say, either I'm going to stop learning and just sit what I got, or I'm going to keep learning. So I feel like the keep learning part is what's going to keep me young for a while.
Yeah, I would think so. Learning something new all the time keeps everything fresh. And the downside of that is, of course, there's always the quest for knowledge. And because of that, you are very up to date on the terrible things that are happening to our planet. And, you know, you're very much a thinker of science. You're always thinking about how the science influences the world, and it influences your choices as well. And I know that you've actually also thought about, man, you feel bad for the younger generation. And
I do. I worry about, you know, my friends' kids. They're all like 18 and 20 now, right? And you know, they must watch the news and think, what is going on? I mean, every day. And it's, I don't, like I said, I don't think it's 100% healthy to watch too much news, but I don't watch politics that much anymore. I try not to. They get in the way of my news stories a lot. But you'll notice environmental stuff is always the last news story of the night. You know, it's always about politics and this politician, that politician. And anybody who follows me on Twitter knows I'm very clear my position about politics, especially the person that is the governor of Florida. I'm just not this guy is all about anti-education, he's like about not wanting people to be smart, because it's very important for them not to have intelligent people out there. And if you notice, a lot of politics is aimed at keeping people in the dark, or making them second guess everything, right? Because by doing that, there's no confirmed anything, so you make up stories. And you know, but anyway, so I feel bad for the 20-year-olds. I mean, they need to vote. You know, don't get me wrong, they got to get out there and vote. They literally can change this country in the next 10 years insanely. Like, they have so much power, but a lot of them just get like, I'm not going to bother, you know.
Yeah, and basically they're falling for the trap that those older politicians want them to fall for. Totally.
They do not want the youth vote. They do not want them to vote, and they do everything they can to make it hard for them, or scare them about it. But anyway, so a lot of this stuff influences my writing, and you know, some people agree with me, some people don't. I'm never rude to the people that don't. I'm always just like, I state my case, and I'm like, well, that's what you believe. You know, what am I going to do? I'm not going to change your mind. I couldn't change. I grew up with Trump in New York. I couldn't change anybody's mind sounding the warning bells, you know. And I was like, this guy's been a, you know, terrible person to New Yorkers for a long time. And of course, when he ran, of course, New York voted blue all the way. But it wasn't out of politics. It was out of, they know this man, you know.
Yeah, they're like, this guy's a piece of shit. I don't want him to be president. Yeah.
So anyway, so a lot of times, so with the writing, it kind of goes in there once in a while, but I don't, you know, I don't stand on a hill and, you know, yell and scream about it. Look, everybody has politics in their writing on some level. The Triggergirl is a book about the way we're treating the environment and the animal, and the price that animals are paying. And you know, we see it every day. We see people, they just like, I have to have a bigger car, and I have to have you know, I gotta get on my jet ski, and you know, they should watch out for me attitude. You know, and you're like, you know, and don't get me wrong, these are the things that the news reports on. Now, the reality is there's just as many, if not 50 times more people that love animals and take care and give to charities, but that doesn't make the news, right?
No,
that's not the news. If there was a good news network, it would probably be on it every day. It would probably commercials. We're going to cut the puppies for now, and we'll come back. We'll be right back. A Good News Network would be something we really need.
Yeah.
Here's 10 minutes of kittens. We'll be right back.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh my God. But the thing is, of course, with Triggergirl, like going back to the first story, you did a great job of touching on those subjects of the environment and also giving a story about someone trying to find their identity, and all within the span of just, you know, 4 short installments that then became a one shot. This
Yeah.
time you're coming back with a 2-issue story, which again is packing in a lot of information, but of course is wrapped in that lovely entertainment, sex and violence vibe that comic fans love so much. Is it important to you to keep a story concise and keep it short? Because like that's what I feel. Sometimes people drag stories out, but you look back at some of the greatest comic stories from like the 70s and 80s that hold up to this day. They're like 2 issues.
Yeah, I am. So I'm very conscious of what things cost because I'm not a rich person. Okay. And so when I buy a comic and I can read it in 2 minutes, I get angry, to be honest with you. I want to sit with it for a while. Somebody commented to me, I would read your comics, but there's too much to read. And I always laugh at that. I'm like saying, yeah, this roller coaster is just too much fun. I have to get off this thing. But I'm like, you're paying to go on and have an experience and story. And for this one with Triggergirl, there's a couple of things going on at once, but I kind of hit on everything that I think, it's funny when you work for yourself, you write something, and then when the artist starts it, you go back and you start reading it and you go, oh, I need to add 2 more pages to this because it feels like there's a gap there. It feels like it jumped. And comic readers, yourself included, know when they read something and they go, it ended too quick, or what happened to that guy? And we consciously or unconsciously do it with movies. Like, that's it. At the end, we go, that's it. Or oh my God, part 2. No, or we have it. So we have this we have this satisfaction level with our entertainment that is like subliminal. Like, we just don't think about it consciously, but we read it and we go, oh, that was good, or that was cool, or that was terrible, or this movie was not for me, man. And a lot of it has to do with the pacing and information being presented. And so my artist will tell you, they think they finish a book, and then I'll call them and say, you know what, can we get 2 more pages? I just want this character to have a quiet moment here. And it's I constantly do that because I didn't have that with the company work I did, Marvel and DC. Obviously you write it and it goes in and that's it. So with these books, I'm like, well, I don't have any deadline. I create my deadlines. Like, I don't do the Kickstarter till the book's done. So I don't do the Kickstarter while the Kickstarter is going, because my attitude is, hopefully I can hit the number. If I don't hit the number, then I'll figure out another way to sell it. But I pay all my guys. Everybody gets paid.
Right.
But I don't settle on the book until the Kickstarter is done. Then we look at it again, and I have my wife read it, and I have other people read it, and I'm like, is there anything missing? Do you wish you saw something here? Is there any unsettled? Do you feel unsettled, or is it not funny, or is it not sexy, or is it not? And I take the opinions and I put them in a nice big hat and see which ones cross with each other. 3 people are saying the same thing, then that means there's something going on there that I didn't catch, right?
Right.
And and it's all with people I trust, right? So these opinions that the people I trust. And then I can make the book better. And I think that's like a cool thing. So
and I think it's like that attention to detail is probably, like, to me, I think overall, that's probably why all of your Kickstarters have been successful. It's because you're someone that loves comics. Like, you love what you do, but on top of that, you love comics as a whole. Because there's creators out there that love telling stories, but not, if somebody told, hey, we want to go write movies for this much, they'd willingly go. Whereas you're somebody that isn't somebody that just loves what they do. You love the world it lives in. And
I have a collection of comic art. I have, let me see if I even look behind me. I just got some books back from CGC. I walk the talk, man. I got This is like it's in terrible condition. It's been retouched and all that stuff. It still came back a 4.5, but it's Superman #5.
oh my gosh.
and it has a blurry double image on the cover. But I don't care because it's like it's 1940. It
Yeah.
came out, you know. So like so I collect comics and I love comic art. I mean, I can, if you had a show where you need a guy to wax poetic about any artist in the industry, I could do it because I adore comic art and I also love the artists that do it.
Yeah.
And the guys that work with me, they kind of know that they kind of know, and I never tell my guys what to draw on the cover. I always just say, I told Adam, I said, here's the character, go crazy. Here's the book. Whatever you give me is going to be great. And that's why I get some great work. I mean, that Adam cover is beautiful.
Yeah.
Joe Linsner's 2 covers are amazing. Like Joe is he's so underrated, that guy. He's like one of those people. I love working with him. We did a bunch of books called Claws for Marvel years ago. And he's got that same kind of sense of humor as I do. And when we did Claws for Marvel, everyone was like, "Oh, I thought it was going to be more serious." And I'm like, it's called Claws, and it's goofy, but it's fun,
Yeah.
So it's that love spills into the books, and I get the guys chasing the movie stuff and the TVs. I get it.
Yeah.
But they have a secondary thing in their head, right? They want to be popular, or they want attention, or I don't know what. I love movies. Don't get me wrong. I love movies, and given a chance, I would direct a movie. Sure, if something I wrote, that'd be the greatest thing. That'd be so much fun. But I am not the son or daughter or niece or nephew of anyone famous in Los Angeles, and nobody's going to hire me to write. I mean, I've done some stuff. I've worked on some TV shows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it is better to be related to somebody out there because you definitely get more work.
Of course, no, totally.
But comics, Amanda and I mean, we're in a house where we make comics here,
Yeah.
So we love them, and we love the people that love them. The comic book audience is a group of the most caring and sweet and intelligent people I've ever met. They're nice. They treat their moms great. They love. They take great care of the things they own. And I know that sounds funny, but you'd be surprised how people just don't take care of things. And comic people tend to take care of everything. They treat everything like it's special, and it's a really nice thing to have in the world where everything's disposable and people feel there's greed and all this kind of stuff going on. Comic people slow down a little bit and appreciate a pizza and friends and beer, hanging out in a bar, laughing and telling stories more than any trip, more than anything else. I find comic people live in the moment. They're very much excited about things. And with the Kickstarter, I try to make it so when I launch, it's exciting. I have exciting stuff in it. But I'm selling it to a bunch of people like me that love comics. And, you said I'm detail oriented. Not only the stories, I pick out the paper stock, the cover stock, spot varnish. I drive my printers crazy, but they love me because I keep giving them work. But I'm like, that black is not black enough. That spot varnish, I'm not crazy about the way it hits the spine.
See,
I don't want to.
That reminds me. It reminds me because you've kind of always been like that. Because I remember back hearing about when you guys were doing Marvel Knights.
Yeah.
That like you guys went out of your way to make sure that the paper stock was the best stock on the racks, even back then.
Well, if I'm going to take money from people, and here's my thing: I have to do it better than the big two. My books got to look better. They got to read better. They should be more fun because the big two, they're corporations hiring creatives, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, at the end of the day, they don't really give a crap. They do this. They make some money from it, but they use it it's about licensing, and that's their main goal, is licensing and films and TV. And I get it. But my thing is I want somebody to take my book. Like if we look at a modern comic, I'm not going to grab one because I'm going to be picking on it. But like if you look at Marvel or DC book, Marvel, let's go for Marvel today. Their cover stock is the same as the interior stock. So the books feel flimsy. I had one right here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is Captain Marvel 50. I'm sorry it's blurry, but
that's okay.
50. But the cover stock is the same as the interior stock. right?
Yeah.
So it's not really protecting the book. It's just paper on top of the story. And there is technically a cover, a nice Amanda Conner cover where I colored it.
Yeah.
Right? There you
Yeah.
go.
Very nice.
It's nice, right? But it's flimsy and it's $5. And I'm like, okay, I understand. They sell hundreds of thousands of these things. So, but there's something very disposable about it. I don't know how it is. And then let me grab one of my books. One without a pair of breasts on the cover. Okay. Now, granted, mine are more, but my print runs are a hell of a lot
Yeah,
less.
they're much smaller.
So this Last Painkiller Jane, where I spot varnish it. The characters are spot varnished. The cover stock is very thick.
Yeah.
Right. And then the paper stock, my rule for paper stock is I should never be able to see the page behind me, right?
Right.
Black's got to be 100% black on it. And it has to be able to be read easily. So it's not stiff. You ever get these comics that it's like turning cardboard. You know, and the paper, and then we do it's called like a vellum fin, it's a satin finish on it. And you know, it feels like this one we only printed, I think, 300 or 400 of them, you know, because it's whatever's ordered on the Kickstarter.
Right.
So the new Kickstarter, like we have the Adam Hughes covers and the Amanda covers, we only print what's ordered. So it's not like there's 10,000 of these things. You literally can read the number of copies that we sell in the Kickstarter. And that's why the last one we did with Adam Hughes, with the girl, you know, the topless girl, we did a separate edition with her topless, but she had like a see-through shirt on for Pop Kill.
Pop Kill, yeah.
And you know, those books are like 1,000 to 1,400 each. Wow. You know, so I always say the people that are collectors, I do the 3 or 4 things. I want a great story, beautiful covers, collectability on some level. Yeah. So people are going to pay a little more for it. And then there's signatures and there's prints. And then we have stretch goals where there's sticker sheets and prints and digital books and stuff like that. So, you know, I really enjoy doing it because I make so many people happy. And every Kickstarter, I gain a few more people because the people who backed it go, oh, okay, this guy delivered it on time. I got everything. And he's only going to shake me down for a lot of money 3 or 4 times a year. So it's
as opposed to the big 2 where it's 12 months a year. They've got something.
It's not even 12 months. It's weekly, right?
Yeah, that's true. Weekly because all the different comics they got. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But so at the end of the day, for me, with the Kickstarters it's about quality control and giving the best book I can. And you know, the greatest thing is I go to the cons and people go, hey, I backed your Kickstarter, and we talk about it. And I'm like, are you happy? Is there anything, you know, that happened? I have, you know, I've asked Kickstarter to have a thing where people can rate the campaigns.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, they're not interested in that. I want that because I want to be rated. I want people to see that every single person that backs my books, I make sure they get the books in mint condition. I bag them. I board them. Me and my buddy Patrick, his wife and kids, we back and board everything. You know, we pack every single package. As a matter of fact, if you get a package and it has a little JP on it, that means I packed it because I always write. They laugh at me because I write on every package that I pack, and it's usually around 50%. You know.
Yeah.
But it's so it's grassroots at its finest. But you know, it's sort of like if you had a singer you loved and they put out an album you can only buy from them. Of course, I would do it in 3 seconds.
Of course,
and I think,
totally.
Yeah, and I think that's where the future is. I mean, it's like certain creators just connecting with their audience and giving them. My audience tells me what they want all the time. They want adult comics.
Yeah.
They like nudity, they like violence, they like anything goes. They love the print quality. They love the chase covers. And they love getting the extra stuff and the connection. Because again, if you write me and say, hey, I didn't get my book this week, I answer you and go, did you fill out your form? No? Maybe fill out the form, you know. And but they're talking to me or Patrick. Patrick's my right hand man, you know. He and I both do the campaigns. And I don't get that with DC, Marvel, or the big company. You put out a book, and you know, I colored this one, the Captain Marvel, and Marvel sent me 1 copy, and it was bent. That's all I get. God. That's my comps. That's all my comps. You know, but I think after a while, I think the audience is becoming a little more picky with their book.
No, that totally makes sense.
And they should, because we we're all feeling like, oh, that book was done just to make this group happy or that group happy, or this isn't really the Hulk I like, or although the Hulk's been good, don't get me wrong. But like, sometimes we feel like that the characters have been kidnapped for a while, and I
Mm,
don't want to read it until a new team comes on, you
right,
know.
right.
And I've always been that guy that stayed on a book for years, because I felt like that's the way. Amanda and I were on Harley for 120 something issues. I was on Jonah Hex for 105 issues.
Mm,
Um, and other books I would have loved to stay on longer, like Hawkman. They just booted us for other people, but our
yeah.
Hawkman was doing great. And Marvel Knights was, me and Joe going, okay, these are great characters. Let's make them better.
Yeah,
Let's give
yeah,
the
and
people
you've
something
carried
fresh.
that into your creator own work, especially.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
how can I make things the best, and your campaigns prove it. Of
yeah,
course, you're going to when people are hearing this, you will
yeah.
be at San Diego Comic Con. You're going to be there. You're doing the whole thing on your own dime,
Yes.
and so you want to get out there, meet a lot of people, and push this campaign. So
Yeah, I don't. So here's the thing: at San Diego Comic Con, people walk by me and they want to say hi. I always say, please say hi, because there's nothing that gets me sadder when I read an email and they go, "Hey, I saw you at the con, but I don't want to bother you." And I'm like, dude, that's when you bother me,
mm.
And which, by the way, it's never a bother. Man and I are. We're very level people. We're super sweet to people, and
I gotta admit, I did that once years ago.
to me,
You were in the back of the Silver Snail at Toronto, just checking out comics, and the place was
right,
empty. And I was
right.
like, "Oh, it's Jimmy Palmiotti. I don't want to bother him," sort of thing.
I would have talked your ear off, but given the chance. But that's why we're at the con, and then I got a couple of panels, so I'll push the Kickstarter. I'm gonna have some postcards so people can just scan them and go right to the Kickstarter.
Yeah,
Hopefully, I want to get some people. I talk to people about the Kickstarters, and they go to me, well, I backed one once, I got ripped off, or or I didn't, or I don't like the idea of it, or how do I know I'm gonna get the stuff? And I'm just like, I've done 21. Go on the internet, try to find a negative thing about my Kickstarter. Said about my, you won't be able to. I said probably about me either. You won't find too much. I did have a guy on Twitter the other day telling me I was mean to him during a portfolio review, and I was gonna go and defend myself, and then I realized it's probably a guy that he didn't like what I said,
right. And he's
so he had to
conflating that with your attitude when it wasn't your attitude. It
right.
was he
But
just
I
didn't like
but
what he was hearing. Yeah.
Right, but I've never been mean or short with people ever, especially portfolio review. I'm very critical about helping people. I'm like, let me give you some good advice. I'll say stuff like your hands aren't working. The good news is you got hands, so let's get a mirror set up so you can draw your hands doing things.
Yeah.
Like I'll always give advice, but I notice some people they bring their portfolio to me and they want me to give them a good review. They don't want to hear the bad news. And I think on some level, that's not me helping them. That's me pacifying them or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I always tend to go, you need to work on your women. Let's say you work on the faces. And I said, I would just get some magazines and draw for them, whatever. I give advice. So I realized I'm not going to answer this guy because I don't do that. I'm not mean and I'm not short to people on
Mm.
portfolio reviews. So he probably didn't like my interview. And that was his way of processing it, was I was mean or short. But it never happened. But
Right.
that's the internet. They can write anything, and then you have to defend it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, overall, it's like you're getting to do what you love. You get again another successful like the campaign has already met its goal. You're in the stretch goals now, which is
Yeah.
great. You're making comics, which you love. Your wife is also an amazing creator. You guys make comics together. You come up with ideas all the time. Overall, I'm thinking that's the life I want. That's a great life.
What do you? So you do your podcast? Do you draw? Do you write? What do you do?
I am a writer. I am a writer.
Okay.
I'm working on some film stuff. I've done a little bit of TV stuff before, but it's up here in Canada. It's very touch and go. So
Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff shot up there, right? So Random Acts
yeah,
of Violence, which was the movie was based on my book, was shot in Toronto,
right, right.
in Northern Toronto. Amanda and I went up there with Jay Baruchel and all his crew and hung out and watched them film it.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff shot in Toronto, you know
Oh
that.
no, of course, though, of
Um,
course.
the thing with film, right, is like, and I had a couple of film people tell me, I had one actor in Thomas Jane. You know Thomas
Oh
Jane?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So Tom, one day we were hanging out, and I think we were in Boston after a show, and he's like, he had his iPhone. He goes, "Hey Jimmy, they make movies on iPhones now. What do you think?" And I said, anything you can watch, that's something. And he goes, "Come on, let's make a movie." And he wanted to shoot a movie, and then something happened. His daughter needed him or something. We
Uh,
didn't do it, but he was like, I'm like, yes, that's the attitude. Just
that's the
just do
attitude,
it.
exactly.
Because even if it sucks, it's still nicer to see than not see, right?
Exactly.
And I always, so that's my attitude with ideas, is like, put them out there. If they don't like them, I've had more books that people don't like than books that people like. But when people talk about my work, they always talk about my success, and that's great. But I've had so many books I've done for Image, stuff that never sold, never caught on. I love, but I realize my audience is like 75 people, you know. Um, but I never regret doing them. I never regret doing them because there's one that's on the shelf, and I look at it and go, all right, well, next time I do something like that, I gotta be a little smarter about it, or I gotta campaign it a little differently. And so with your film stuff, the greatest thing in the world is just to find some like minds to go shoot anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Write some dialogue, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of already like I've been on that path before. Took time off away from it because I was worried about my financials and stuff like that. But I've kind of come back into that, and I have made connections with some people, and I feel like in a few years I will be doing
That's
this stuff
awesome.
on the regular. Yeah, so
It's what don't let the technology intimidate you.
yeah,
It's not a crutch. You can, the bottom line I've learned with film is, if the script is great, the movie's usually pretty good.
right.
Um, but if the script is crap, I don't care how much money you throw at it.
Still gonna be crap.
It's still
Yeah,
crap. Yeah. I mean, it all starts with dialogue. Tarantino taught us that you can have a table with five guys talking for 25 minutes, and it's not boring for a second, and you're laughing, and you're the sixth person sitting at that table listening, and you realize like how important it is, the written word is, for filmmakers, right?
yeah,
Because if you have a decent actor delivering a good couple of lines, or two actors delivering, man, the audience is there with them, man.
hmm
There's a relatable dialogue. You got your audience, and after that, if you can sell them on them, then any idea after that, it's butter,
yeah,
And I see so many people shoot stuff, and they're so obsessed with the way it looks. Something looks that it damages what they're trying to get across. And Stanley Kubrick was a good example of madness
yeah.
and brilliance at the same time. But part of me is like, I'm angry because I should have had 7 more Stanley Kubrick films if he wasn't so obsessive. But then again, he's so obsessive. That's why I probably like those films.
Yeah, yeah.
So its art is all over the place. But to me, and even it's a Kubrick thing too, about dialogue, and you got to have a good story first. You got to have great dialogue, and you
Well,
know
it's the same thing. Yeah, like the same thing. Like Tarantino, his movies are spaced out. Rodriguez shoots his movies all the time, but Rodriguez's films are like 1 in 3 is good. So it's like maybe taking your time is the way, you know. So,
right. Well, with Rodriguez, they're not story driven. They're
mm,
not. I'm sorry. They're idea driven,
yeah,
but they're not dialogue piece. Nobody looks at a Rodriguez movie to do quotes
right, right.
or dialogue scenes. Nobody says, you know what? Let's have these two actors work through. I don't know. And it's funny because the movie that he did of his that I like, one of my favorite ones, was Dust to Dawn, and I realized that was
It
Tarantino.
was written by
Right?
Tarantino, directed by
because
him. Yeah,
because there's whole conversations in like a hotel room where they're sitting there talking, and I'm like, this is great. Like, what is this? And I realize, oh, it's okay. So it's really interesting. I am, the writer's strike. I mean,
yeah,
especially the quote the other day is, we're gonna let it go till September, October, so the writers can't pay their rent anymore. That, by the studio's quote, was pretty horrible, and I think it helped the actors go and strike as well.
yeah.
But again, it all starts with the writing. We have beautiful art on comics, but man, sometimes if the writing sucks, you just don't care.
Yeah, yeah. I think the some of the choices of the '90s kind of prove that.
I mean, you know, there's a nostalgia to that stuff,
Yeah.
but
When you go
some
back
of
and
it I don't.
read some of that stuff, it's like,
No,
well,
I
the
some of that
pictures are nice. There you go.
no some of that stuff never made it to my home. Let's just
There you
that was the
go.
stuff. That was, you know, I have my office is in a comic shop,
Right.
you know, so I have access to read a lot of stuff, and then I give it back for credit.
There you go.
Um, but I read a lot of stuff, and I realize that it's like this is a generation writing in a way where they're not writing saying I am that character and this is how it's going to go. They're writing it like, oh, that character, I want that character to do things I like.
Mm,
And I think that's a lot of the writing right now where I think the classic stuff that really works, like Frank Miller was like, I'm Daredevil
right.
and this is my life and my life is shit and it's crazy and I'm in love with this girl, it's a killer. And like, but he's never like, I want Daredevil to have a pastrami sandwich on a Wednesday afternoon and have heartburn. You know,
Yeah.
like it seems it's. I think that some of the writing has gotten away from I am this character to
Right.
I want to see this character. I don't know if you noticed that with some of the books.
Some of the books, yeah. Some of the books I'd say definitely. And then there are some books that kind of take the, well, what happened before? Let me play the hits on that, you know?
Well, I mean, they're trying to sell it. You know, I have you know, Dan DiDio used to say, when I give you and Amanda a book, you bring it in the Jamanda universe right away. And in our universe, Power Girl runs around and Atlee's still there and Starfire jumps in and Harley's a pain in the neck. And he's like, the Jamandaverse is a very interesting universe you guys created in the books, but it has nothing to do with the rest of the line. And I'm like, yeah, we like to keep the rest of the line away
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
Let us have fun over here. And you know, I think that's what Sean Murphy does with his Batman titles. It's like his universe. And
Right.
I kind of like that. You know, I kind of like that because let's be honest, there's 18 Batman titles, you know.
Yeah.
We need something with variety. You can't just fight the Joker again. It's not a headline.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. No,
Anyway,
totally.
we're going all over the
Yeah, we're
place.
going all over the place, but that's okay, man. That's all right. Well, of course, as I said, Triggergirl 6 Justice, the Kickstarter campaign is live on Kickstarter right now. Of course, go to paperfilms.com to find out more. Jimmy, thank you so much for talking with me today. It's always a delight talking to you. And this question is just for me at the end here.
Go ahead.
And like we've actually explained it on the show before, so people can go back into the archives. But do you still own the box of comics that you got from the old guy that you had to move the cabinet for?
I I do. I have them. They're in bags now and boards.
Okay.
Some of them are pretty, you know, beat up, but if I had more time, I could literally go into my house and grab that box. But it's in a comic box now. I took them all out of it. He had them in a cardboard box. That's why they started disintegrating.
Right.
But no, I still got like the Spider-Man 30 and I've taken some of the more expensive ones and given them to CGC because I read them a million times and they're just going to disintegrate.
Yeah. So
You
now you
know,
just want to preserve them.
I
Yeah.
just want to have it and throw it under the house, and then when I die, whoever gets left with it gets that's their problem. Um, did you ever think about that? Like all this stuff you have, and like I don't have kids. Do you have kids?
I don't have kids. No.
I so like when we go, we have to hope that somebody in the hobby knows what we have, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like yard sale stuff.
Yeah.
Like
Pretty much. It just
yeah,
gets, or
those.
some, sadly, sometimes people still to this day just throw shit out.
Oh
It's
no,
like,
no, no. The reason why comics are expensive is moms got together and said, "How can we make the prices of comics go up? Let's throw them all out." And then somebody said, "Hey, you know what? Let's throw out the original art too, because who wants that crap?"
oh, God.
And how much original art's been thrown out in the 50s and 60s is you would be surprised. But people go, "How come I never see pages for that?" I'm like, "Well, because they threw it out,
Yeah.
you know." And that's why comic art is so hot right now because you know people are doing digital comics, so there's less original art,
Yeah. Less original art.
and that's
Yeah.
why sketches is so big. Like people want sketches or blank covers, is because there's a limit to the original art, and the stuff that used to be 10, $20 is now $400, $800.
My
And you're
God.
like, and the sad part about getting old is you remember what things cost when you were younger.
Yeah.
And then your brain hurts when I had the giant size X-Men. When it came out, I bought like two of them. And
Mm,
they were $1.25 each, I think. And then
right.
they're not $1.25 anymore.
No, they're definitely not a dollar. Especially that one. That was $1.25, and that was a time when comics were 75 cents. But that was $1.25 because it was special. So now you're
Right.
looking at these days that would come out on the shelf $12 to $15. So
Yeah, probably, yeah. But it's Amanda always laughs at me because when I grew up in Brooklyn, and this is '60s, right? So late '60s, early '70s. I used to go to lunch from school. I used to sneak out and go have lunch outside the school. And they had a pizzeria around the corner had a special. It was 2 slices of a Coke for 50 cents. And I was like, go in my 2 quarters and I have them refill the soda. And I was like, 50, think about that. Two
yeah,
slices of soda for 50
yeah,
cents.
it's crazy. That is crazy.
So yeah, so it's tough when you see old people like older people looking at prices a lot more because you realize that we have the history of prices in our heads, and it's really tough for us to say, wait a minute, pizza pie is $12 or $15.
Yeah,
What? You know?
yeah,
But
yeah.
yet our pay is somewhat the same for the last
Yeah,
2 years.
yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. That's definitely like I don't like that deal. Definitely not.
Oh, I remember it was comics, you got like a $5 raise a year per page.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Maybe that's why they don't want to use me. 30 years of $5. Add that shit up. You know?
Yeah. A lot of $5 there. Oh my God. Well, Jimmy, it's been great talking with you. I don't want to take up any much more of your time. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. And as I said, when people first hear this, you'll be at San Diego Comic-Con. So I hope you have a
I'll
great
be
Comic-Con.
geeking hard.
That's
I
right.
will
You'll
be geeking hard at San Diego Comic Con.
That's right. And
I will
hopefully
be
tons of
online.
people will geek hard with you and come up to
Yeah.
you and say, hey. So
We love meeting the people. So come out and say hi. But I will be geeking hard in your memory there,
all
Andrew.
right. Well, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you. Think of me when you are geeking hard.
I will.